Hello everyone.
One of the biggest changes that we have coming into this new 1.0 version is the way our trial board changed. We want people to know how their therapy is going to happen.
Yeah, maybe we can open the terminal, take a look. Previously we had like programs, separate programs, but now it's all merged into the core therapy called the program Genesis. And then program X is more endgame now, so it's gonna unlock after you have released one reagent. And then after that, after you've released a few reagents, you can access program Ultra, which is our most insane and hardcore program. We had like popular demand for a program like that, so now it's going to be available. Also, keep in mind over time we're going to be refreshing both Program X and Program Ultra as we add more content to the game. Those two will change as well; they will evolve, so people can return to those. And then we always have a fourth program, which is like the weekly program. Uh, so this week is this one, but it's changing every Tuesday. And
Exactly.
when we run major events, there's one coming soon after release. The weekly program is replaced by the event for the duration of the event to give enough time for everyone to try to finish it and unlock all of the rewards. So it's something, stay tuned because it's something we're going to be giving more info later on. Now players will have to go through the core therapy, and even the existing players, they can go through the core therapy.
The core therapy is the first thing you go through as a reagent in the gameplay, is the first sequence of maps that you play.
Correct. Part of it, there's the new Toy Factory trial, Revert the Futterman. Yeah. So yeah, those are. This one is brand new, and the following MK challenges as well. So that's all new. It was not in early access.
Yeah, exactly. So this had come out, Courthouse, we all saw during the Halloween events with our new MK challenges that came in there too. Grind the Bad Apples is Fun Park. We have Cleanse the Orphans back here. Kill the Snitch. Ignore my Fs. I'm not who you want to be in the trials.
It's a much more linear kind of progression for like based on the feedback we got from like new players, but as well as solo players. Also, just a note about solo players, we've drastically made uh, changes in the trial so that when you play solo, it's not necessarily much easier, but much more accessible. So we totally see people go through the entire core therapy solo without a problem. Of course, it gets challenging over time, but nothing impossible as you will be making progression and unlocking new rigs, upgrading them, unlocking new amps to help you out with like the later programs. The later
Exactly.
trials in the program. This was like a huge feedback we got from the community during early access, and we made sure that like solo players have a good time and they can actually finish the game, yeah, without having to call friends. Although, it's always better with more people, but now, yeah, there's this possibility. Another important change is that if you've played during early access, the release tokens required to release your reagent, where you could only acquire them during the trials of Program X. Now we've changed the structure quite a lot. Program even now the release tokens are given everyone everywhere in the game. Any trial will provide the release tokens. By finishing Program Genesis, you will have enough tokens to release your first reagent and witness the conclusion of the game, and then you can move on to Program X, Ultra, or even the weekly therapies will provide the release tokens. So that's how you can keep grinding those tokens and keep releasing more and more reagents, explore the different conclusions, and keep progressing in the game. So this is another major change. It should really help out also with like matchmaking and the group finder so that like players who are getting matched together, they can basically do any trial, and it's always going to be contributing to the release tokens, required for releasing a reagent. So
Exactly.
it should be much smoother now to release a reagent. Yeah.
And just to give a little refresher in the lobby,
Yeah.
to release, you're
On the
still
other side of this door
going to see this
is
lovely guard,
sovereignty.
and now
Yeah.
it's 20 release tokens.
Tomorrow's
Exactly.
history.
So the major trials they give two
An
tokens, whereas
abyss.
the MK challenges they
Base
give
and
one
disgusting human
token.
to something
Okay.
Yeah.
greater.
So what's cool now is that
Philosophy
even if
therapy.
you only play the weekly
We're turning you
therapies or
into
the
something capable
events
of
that are
walking
gonna come in
through
the
that
future,
door.
you will still
Someday.
be making progress for your reagent release. So everything you do in the game now contributes to this end game feature, which is nice.
Yeah, exactly. And you can like try to reborn your character after completing your core therapy to get
Correct.
into program X,
Yeah.
and then again from program X to program Ultra.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's always 20 tokens to
Exactly. Yeah.
release your
It
character.
resets every time you release, and then you
Yeah.
have to farm 20 new release tokens.
Okay. But it's really helpful to know that, you can get them in every challenge that you go into. Do you want to talk a bit about matchmaking? I know that we reworked matchmaking a lot. It was a big question that players had as well about
Yeah.
matchmaking.
If you click on Group Finder, oh yeah, right there. And then, yeah, so you can either select any trial, so from the entire game, like it's just like pure quick matchmaking,
Hmm.
where the second option is selected program, so it's going to be looking for players within the program you've selected. Right now, it would be Program Genesis. And then if you want to be very specific, it's the selected trial. So in this case, it would be Kill the Snitch. Yeah, the downside would be that it could be a bit longer than usual, just because it's only looking for players looking to play this exact trial of this
Exactly.
exact program. So you have the choice now. Yeah,
Yeah.
using the group finder.
Another great way to find people to play with you is on our Discord. So for players who are playing at different levels and everything, like, you can find people who want to maybe grind out to get a certain amount of reborns.
Before doing early access, only Program X would give release tokens, and you could not like you would only get one release token per trial once, and then it had to reset, and it caused a bit of friction. Whereas like some players would try to find a group to really play a specific trial because they needed one more release token, for example. But now with the new structure, you can play anything to get the release tokens, and this friction should be gone now.
We can go into a bit of the loadout situation.
Oh yeah, sure. If you open your screen to the loadout tab, we've made quite a big change with the amps. Before you would have like a selection. You would have to pick three amps among all the amps we had. Now we've changed that to three categories, and you can pick one amp per category. Uh, that has been done for better support over time as we add more and more amps. It was becoming a bit overwhelming to pick three amps among like over like 25 amps. So there's that. Also now there's a lot more like kind of like creativity with the restrictions of the categories. So we're very interested to see what kind of builds the players are going to be building using this new restriction with the amps. And you
Yeah.
do as usual, like before, you would have to go see Doris to unlock new amps in each of the categories as you make progress. Also, the maximum level has been raised to 65, and now there's even a bunch of new amps that were not there during early access.
The
Um,
choice is always
I don't know if you
yours.
want me to go through them quickly.
If you have a few that like stick out, because I know that a lot of player, one of the questions we got asked in the Q&A was if we were planning on changing up a bit of the loadout situation to kind of make more granularity with it and give people more of like to really form their reagent and create different like builds basically.
Oh
If
yeah,
you,
definitely. If you want to go like more like let's say survival, you could be picking like a tool that will increase your survivability. Same with the skill and the medicine. So stuff like hide and heal, mixed with like how is it called, like self revive, which is a new amp where it basically resurrects you after death once per trial.
yeah.
It's quite a hand game amp, but So you could be mixing like those amps together and really forge a build that is like about survivability. Whereas you could be building a build for stealth, for example, where you take amps that are really gonna diminish your like your noise or visibility of the enemies on you and things like that. So there's a lot of like decisions that you can take to build different like loadout builds there.
Yeah, exactly. And like I know I always use the healing rig and I'm trying to diversify. So I know that I'm going to be maybe choosing different amps that are more of a support for me in the
Yeah,
health
yeah.
aspect of
Yeah,
it.
for example, when you're playing healing, you sort of want to be the last person alive so that you can always, you know, help out your friends. So that's why maybe it's a good idea to either pick like, yeah, this new one like self revive or double dose, which allows you to use a syringe twice and things like that. So there's a bit of a decision to take there, but there's definitely a way you can like build something that goes along your play style.
Yeah, and you were mentioning to me earlier that invisible is really practical because when you peek out of hiding spots, sometimes there is a likelihood that an NPC will see you and the enemy will go after you if you're peeking when they're walking by. If you're in the dark, sometimes they don't see you, sometimes they do, but with invisible, even if you are peeking in a hiding spot, they will never see you.
Exactly. Yeah, this is one of the new M's we've added. There is one that is called backpack. This one is adding like a fifth slot for inventory, which is like it's a kind of a compromise you're taking where you basically give up an amp to have one more slot in your inventory. So that's an interesting choice. Um, Yeah, we have a new one. It's called anti-door traps. So for people like me who always forget about the door traps and just rushing
Walk
through
into the door
everything,
traps.
this one is pretty useful because if you open the door normally, it's gonna just shatter the trap. But if you open it slowly, the trap will be disarmed, and then you can pick up the battery from it. So it's interesting. So there's two ways where you can basically deal with the door traps um, with
Yeah,
this
I
amp.
like the smash, which is
Yeah,
your
Smash is pretty useful. Like, let's say you do play a trial which has like a variator that increases the amount of locked doors or barricaded doors and with planks. Then this one is very useful because you can smash them in just one hit instead of the regular two hits. Again, like this is also something we are curious to see with the weekly programs where we're throwing a bunch of variators. We're gonna see if people, what kind of builds they're gonna come up with their loadouts to sort of like counter a bit those weekly therapy variators.
And we are adding weekly variators throughout the live process. I know a lot of the questions we got as well were asking how long do we want to support the game? How long are updates coming out for? And this really is the launch from early access into 1.0 that is going to start all of the live ops events. So we
Correct.
saw how much people liked weeklies, how some people like certain weeklies more than others, and we took from that and we saw what kind of aspects of these that they liked and didn't like. Sometimes we did force people into solo play, let's say, or to play in a group. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. So we're keeping that in mind for the ones to come. And the other thing too is that a lot of people are asking if the limited time events are coming back, and they are.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, so during early access, it was a way for us to test and develop our tools for operations like that, so that we can run events and have weekly stuff, and even maybe eventually daily stuff in the game. So we've learned a lot throughout the early access, and now we're all set up for the future. And of course, we're going to be adding more new types of weekly therapies, but also we're going to be running new events. Something cool is coming soon. I cannot mention it yet, but yeah, there's a very bright future. And at the end of the day, we are all experiments of Murkoff, right? And he's trying things on all the players. So that's also a bit the philosophy we have with the weekly therapies. We are aware that some of them might feel a bit weird, like in term of like experience, but it's Murkoff who's conducting those, so he wants to try things under reagents for a week, and that's why he puts them in like some weird situations sometimes. And we fully understand that some players could really love one weekly program, whereas like some other players might not dig it, and then the week after it changes. So yeah, we have a large rotation of weekly therapies that are coming in the future, but we're always going to be adding more variations to the weeklies, yeah, in the future. So it's really just the beginning of the journey. Oh, but as you're going towards Noakes, one thing we've added with this release is that there's now the denizens, so
Yeah, it was good.
Noakes, Barlow, and Doris.
Okay.
They're gonna have stuff to talk about. So over the course of your journey in the Murkoff Institute, you're gonna learn more about their backgrounds, their point of view, the Murkoff background also. So yeah, just as you complete trials, you're gonna see like when they have something new to tell you about, go and visit them,
I'm
and
just
then
doing my
yeah, just
job.
listen
I'm
to
not
what they have to
anybody's
say.
therapist, okay?
Yeah, it's
You
a
want a shoulder
you
to
can
cry on,
dive in
talk
the
to one of
world
them
of
other guinea
Murkoff
pigs.
and Outlast
I'm too
Trials this
sensitive
way.
for this shit.
Exactly.
But
And these are not documents that you need to find. Those documents that you need to find that tell you the story is one thing. And when you go to your denizens to listen, these are things that spontaneously happen when you're coming back to the sleep room from a trial. Your
exactly.
denizens will have different little stories to tell you when you come back.
Yeah, even Easterman himself can tell you stuff from your personal cell. If you go to the radio, now you're gonna learn
Take
more
care
about
now.
like his point of view on the situation, let's say.
Yeah, some people were really, explaining what the Outlast
I
Trials
watch
is
you when you
in this
sleep,
universe.
thinking about how special you are, how much I love you.
Yeah.
I hope you'll think of me like
Did
a
you
friend,
did you hear my
like a
dog bark?
mentor,
No,
like a father.
I'm hearing what Easterman is saying.
Okay, sorry.
He told me he watches me while he sleeps, while I sleep. So that's always good to know. But yeah, so a lot of people were asking us in the Q&A about lore and what we were adding, if we were adding different ways of storytelling that weren't just the documents, let's say. So one way was through the different voice lines that the denizens tell you
Easy
when you
there,
come back
Tango.
every now and then. We want the story to be told in a more cryptic way. It isn't a linear experience like Outlast 1 and 2, clearly. But also having use of the radio in here, where Easterman is kind of telling you what's happening. Um, at least you'll get to hear from him apart from when he just gives you some sassy comment when you come back from a trial, succeeding or not
Oh
succeeding.
yeah, yeah, definitely. You're part of the Murkoff world in a way, and even over time, there's gonna be more new stuff that you're gonna be learning and experiencing. So yeah, there's a lot of coming in the future about like this world, and yeah, it definitely will evolve and change over time.
The balancing of the amps, those are all going to be in the patch notes. But we
Oh
definitely
yeah,
tried.
the
I'm gonna go
amps, the
back.
rigs as well. There's some changes on
You
the
need something?
X-ray,
Oh,
some
it's
stuff
you.
on the blind mine.
Hey, where'd you just...
We we're very
Well, the days
receptive to
kind
the
of
feedback
blur
of the
together here,
players.
don't
So
they?
after our last patch note, we've decided to change a few things back to what they were before. So we saw what people were saying about our changes, and we saw the different situation. They were using the blind mine. So yeah, we've reverted a few things, but we kept some more. So something to discover in the patch note. We've also reworked a little bit the stun. Um, to
Yeah.
be slightly more useful in like quick situation as an offensive tool. Ultimately, the way we see the blind mine is something that requires some preparation and planning, whereas the stun rig is something that you need to use like maybe more on the spot. So reducing the cooldown will offer more opportunities to use it on the fly when needed in urgent situations. So even from the base cooldown has been reduced. So
And what
there's
happens
that.
when you miss your stun?
Yeah, so if you use or if you get the restore upgrade, basically if you're a user that misses with the stun, the game is not gonna penalize you as much anymore, and basically like the cooldown is instantly reduced. This can also be used in some situation, for example, like disarming things in the map, in the environment. So because you're not hitting an enemy, this upgrade will take effect. And so it's a nice way for players to basically use this as a tool on top of like using it to stun the enemies. And then the healing, it's a small one, but it's quite meaningful. Uh, you can now use it while inside a hide spot. It's not something that was possible before, but we've realized that a lot of people sometimes like they gather up in in one of those big lockers that can fit two people, and you're gonna be able to heal your friend next to you.
Nice.
The rigs are
Keep your
something
head
we're
down.
monitoring at all times, and we're gonna keep modifying them or improving them over time based on the feedback and the usage of players.
Are we planning on adding any new rigs?
Yes, of course.
Like the game is something that is live, and we not only take feedback to balance and rework some of the things that are in game, but to continue to add things to the game to spice it up. Keep you
Yeah, I would say
creative.
we have a solid foundation now, and we're gonna be building on top of what we have. So yes, definitely more rigs, more amps, more trials, more enemies. Yeah, we have big plans for the future.
Hello everyone, we are here to go over some of the Q&A questions that we got from fans. We did answer some of them on Reddit. The Outlast Trials is crossplay. You can play with anybody across PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series XS, and on PC on Epic Games Store and on Steam. So you should be able to add your friends. We have a central friend list. One thing to note, however, is that the game does not have any cross progression saves. So any progress that you make on an account on one platform will not be transferred to another. All of your reagents saves will be on their individual platforms. So some of the things that are released now in 1.0 are our new trial map, which is Toy Factory. The prime asset of that map is Gooseberry, so you can meet her in Toy Factory. We have 2 MK challenges with that map too, so if you're not familiar with the MK challenges and this is your first time playing the Outlast Trials, the MK challenges are just a smaller, different portion of the same map that is a bit more digestible. It's meant to be for when you just don't want to play for as long as a stretch. And so you would do those smaller challenges within that map instead of doing that full trial program. Another question that people always ask is how long does it take to play through the Outlast Trials? So because the Outlast Trials is not a linear narrative experience like Outlast 1 or 2, it's a little more difficult to give an exact playthrough time. It will vary for everybody. This game is meant to be a lot more episodic, and the story is told through a series of documents, NPC voice lines, character voice lines, the denizens voice lines. You'll get to learn different tidbits of information to piece together what it is that Murkoff is doing in the Outlast Trials. You need to understand that this game is a prequel to the Outlast 1 and 2 games. It also depends on how you play through your levels as well. Are you someone who's going to be sneaking and trying to be a bit more covert? Or are you going to be aggressive, run through, and try to speedrun it? So, again, playstyles will also change how fast you will get through the trials. We also had a lot of questions about difficulty levels and the way that the trials are laid out for you to play. So right now, we've gone through this with our game director as well. You have the core therapy, and the core therapy is going to outline all of our different trials. So these big header ones here: kill the snitch, cleanse the orphans, grind the bad apples, vindicate the guilty, and then lastly, newly, we have pervert the futterman, which are more which showcase all of our different environments, basically. And then the MK challenges within that is meant for you to be able to have, these are going to take place in a different part of the map, but will still be in the same environment. If somebody is jumping into the game for the first time, you can always come into your core therapy starting first, which is Program Genesis. So it's where Murkoff wants you to start as a reagent. Next up, we have the Advanced Therapy, which is your Program X. So this is a reimagining of what we've had in Early Access. It's meant for people who want more of a challenge in their playthrough, but just not too much. So here we can see that we have 3 variators that are always applied to each of the trials in Program X, hence increasing the difficulty. So then there's Program Ultra. Program Ultra is the called the path to hell for a reason. It is difficult, and it is meant for our more experienced players. So once you've gotten through the rest of it, or you're somebody who's a session player, has played through Early Access, the Ultra Variator just does a stack of different things. So it makes your enemies more difficult. The environment is more hostile, so that means that you're going to be aggroing more. You have an extended rig cooldown, so you have less inventory space, you have no intel, and no player names. Our weekly therapies always start every Tuesday at approximately 10 a.m. Eastern Time is when they get activated, and we have a whole slew of them set for this month. So one of the questions that we had was for JT. What are some of the writing influences for the enemy dialogue? It endlessly fascinates me and sometimes reminds me of both transgressional fiction and serial killer memoirs that I've read. I have read a lot of Annie Proulx, James Eloy, Dashiell Hammett, George Higgins, and all the transgression and serial killer stuff. I think it just comes naturally. So what is Program Lathe? So if you saw, it is referenced a lot in the documents of the game, and it is also referenced on the trial board if you look carefully on Program Ultra. There will be some more documents in-game that we're going to be able to gather throughout the update that are going to give you some of that information of what exactly is happening, what is Murkoff investigating, and we'll be revealing more about that setup and what's happening in the Signala facility, the science, junk, and real behind the therapy, and the construction of the trials, and so on. We don't want to give away the main storyline, but Program Lathe is one of the big narrative parts of the story of the Outlast Trials, so that will be told slowly. Are there any changes to upgrade mechanics, rigs, prescriptions, and apps? The answer is yes, and we've gone through some of that with our game director in this video. There are new amps. There are some reworks to some of the rigs. One of those changes is actually also the brick rework. So you have your 2 uses with your brick. So yeah, things like that we always are getting feedback on, and we'll be iterating on the Outlast Trials live game. I'm sure you've heard that a lot from us, but it's meant so that we can have that freedom to change the way the game is played live. So are Rebirths resetting at launch? Yes. So the Rebirths at the time of recording this, which is 8 p.m. on March 4th, they're at 406,638. You can see it right above me, but this will be reset. Cheers to all of those reborns. Alright, so another question that we got was, do we ever plan to have Gooseberry and Coil on the same map together? So Gooseberry and Coil do have a relationship. All the Xbox characters have a life outside of the trials. And after all, everybody needs to eat, shit, and sleep somewhere, sometimes. So we would like to eventually elaborate more on those characters and the relationships that they have together. So stay tuned, it's not impossible. So another question that we had was, why did we choose those specific themes that were based around a toy factory, police station, amusement park, orphanage, and also what was the process of choosing the locations that we then built the environments around. So we started the themes that we wanted to explore. So something like family values, we wanted to explore the rule of law, and then those is what fed the ideas of the characters that we would work on. So we created those Outlast styled characters and representing those themes. From that, that's how we came up with the environments in which those characters could shine and express their philosophies. So someone had asked, will there be a continuation of the plot? There is a radio in the room. Is it going to be used? So that radio is now used by Easterman to communicate with you. It wasn't enough to just hear from him at the end of trials. He wanted to make sure that he can get a word in to you personally in your cell. Remember that the current content in the game is only the beginning. Picture this as a pilot episode to a mini-series. This is the starting point, and we want our characters to evolve and for the storylines to go along with them. So what does Red Barrel's team think is the best way to create an oppressive atmosphere in a horror game? There really isn't a magical recipe to this. You gotta start from a dark place within yourself, and from there you can start to transpose all those aspects in a game setting. So the visuals, the sounds, the animations, etc., it'll all build on that initial feeling that you have. It is rarely something that you nail on your first try. It takes layers of iteration until you finally find the right dosage of all of those elements. So is Red Barrels working on Outlast 3? We get this question quite a bit. So it is on the mental back burner. It is something that we work on as ideas come up, but we're not close to starting pre-production for Outlast 3 right now. So what is the biggest challenge that you've had to deal with after early access launch, during, and then obviously just generally developing the game? And one of the things that was the most difficult is definitely the iterating process of balancing a live multiplayer game, right? So the adjustments that have to be made, adding missing systems, creating new trials, and it's been a lot to juggle for a small team like us. However, we've been growing, and we're just over 60 now working at Red Barrels, and even though there is a lot of challenges that we are facing at once, which is pretty normal for a live game, especially multiplayer live game, it is something that we're proud of, and we are in a good place now to face the future and the longevity of the Outlast Trials. Will the main hub area ever get more places to explore? I think what I can say to that is that Easterman is just waiting for a little bit more budget to see if he can expand the sleep room for everyone, but we do have to expand at a sustainable rate. Thank you to everybody who submitted questions. We definitely want to be streaming more often, and since our game is now live in 1.0, and we also have our weeklies happening all the time, limited time events coming as well, we will be in touch. So we just want to thank everyone who took the time to submit some questions to us. We can't answer all of them because of course there are some things that we are still working on. We are working on a roadmap to be able to show everyone what it is that is coming shortly, things that are in the plans for the future, but that don't really have an end date yet. So we want to definitely give more visibility to that. That includes doing more live streams or, pre-recorded videos like this. We hope to be seeing all of you in the sleep room really soon. So happy 1.0 launch, and we'll all be seeing you in the Signala facility.
Nothing can stop the march of science and history. The trials will evolve and expand, revealing new challenges, characters, and stories. Untold thousands have found their home in the trials. Now it's your turn to enjoy Murkoff's hospitality. Let the trials begin.